Hey, what's up everyone, Jelle here with the Video Nerd and welcome to the first editing tutorial on my channel. In this tutorial I will show you how to make the Fortnite montage you just saw in the intro, and we will start from scratch. I will show you how to film it, how to edit it, how to add effects to it, and in the end of this video I will also link you to a thumbnail tutorial so you can make an awesome thumbnail for your montage. And if you use this guide to make your own Fortnite montage, please link it in the comments down below because I'm really curious to see what you guys are making with my tutorials. This will be a very long tutorial, so I will probably add timestamps to the description so you can jump to whatever part you like. I will also be using a lot of assets in this video like sound effects, flares, etc. and I will link everything that I use down in the description so you can download it and make this montage together with me. I will also share the footage which I recorded to make the montage in the intro, and it's the same footage that I will be using right now in the tutorial. I know that not everyone who is watching this video has Adobe Premiere or After Effects or doesn't want to crack it, so I decided to use a free program called DaVinci Resolve. It is very popular for its color grading functions, it's used in a lot of Hollywood films, but the editing functions inside of the program got better with every new update, and right now we are at a point where it's comparable or even better than Premiere Pro. And inside of DaVinci Resolve they also added a Fusion tab, and Fusion is an editing program that's comparable to Adobe After Effects, so we have everything in one program, and the free version has everything you need. Let's start with recording the footage we need to make our montage. So inside Fortnite, go to the Career tab, and there you can view your replays. I will be doing this on my computer, and I will be recording using the program GeForce Experience. If you have an NVIDIA graphics card, this is a great option to record your screen. If you don't have an NVIDIA graphics card, you can also use OBS or Streamlabs OBS to capture your screen. If you are doing this on Xbox or PS4, I cannot show you how to do this because I don't have a console, but these days it's not that hard to screen record on consoles, so I'm sure you will be able to figure that out. For those who will be doing this on PC, when we click on the replays, right here you can click on Open Replay Folder, and when we click on that, a new folder will open and it disappears, so I will Alt Tab to the folder, and here you will see a list with all your replays. So if you are making a montage for a friend, he can send you the replay file, you can add it to this folder, and then it will appear right here in the replays. You might have to click on refresh and then it will appear right here. So right here, montage tutorial, this is just a replay that a friend sent to me. So I did add it to that folder, and now I can double click it, click on confirm, and then the replay will load and I can make a montage for him, or in this case for the tutorial. Okay, so the replay has loaded, and the first thing you need to do is make sure that you are following the right person. So in this case, Kingcredible, and we are following him. So the great thing about this replay function is that you can see all the kills made in the game by the person you are following. So you can just click on them and you will immediately jump to the first kill. I will give a basic explanation of all the functions we have in the editor. If you already know your way around, you know about the camera settings, etc., then you can just skip this part. But for those who don't, there are some things you really should know when using this editor. Let's move to a different part in the replay where my friend is walking outside, so I can explain all the camera settings to you because that's really important. Okay, so this shot is perfect because there are a lot of things in the background, and we also have some space for the camera because the camera can collide with objects and can start doing weird things. First of all, you can change your camera type right here on the right, but we will start with third person. When you click right here on this camera icon, you have some options and you have two tabs. In the second tab, you have a lot of options which are self-explanatory, but the important ones to enable is high quality effects. Then damage effects, this depends. If you make a nice sniper shot and you want the big 250 headshot damage to show up on the screen, then you can enable this. But for normal montage, especially cinematic montage use, I would not enable damage effects. Then distance to subject, this is zooming, but it's a different kind of zooming than zooming with your lens. So this is the important thing that I really wanted to explain. You can change the distance to subject right here, but you can also do it with E and Q. So zooming in and zooming out. So this is what I will be using. But the important thing I want to explain is in the first tab right here, you can see focal length, and focal length is the thing that we can change by scrolling in and scrolling out or with these arrows. So when I close this and I scroll, I zoom in and I zoom out, but I can also zoom in and out with E and Q, and these are different types of zooms. When you are scrolling on the left, you can see that you are changing the focal length of your lens. And using the focal length to zoom is doing more things than just zooming in and out with E and Q. Now, what's the difference? The lower your focal length is, so for example 10, the wider your shot will be. So you see right now, this is a very wide shot. There are a lot of things that are on the screen. And when we zoom in with our focal length, 200 is the maximum in Fortnite, and this is a very narrow shot. And I can give you a clear example so you can really see what the difference is. So let's say we want a shot that's about this far from the player. Something like this. Now we can make this a wide shot or a narrow shot by using our focal length. So let's say we scroll out completely till the focal length is 10 millimeters. So this is a very wide shot. Now we can zoom in with Q till the player is right here in the shot. So as you can see, this is very wide and the gun is even distorted a bit. Now the second way to get this shot is zooming completely in till the focal length is 200 millimeters and then zooming out with E like this. This is the furthest we can zoom out right here. Okay, so you see that right now, this is a very narrow shot. There is almost nothing visible in the background, even when we zoom out a bit with the focal length. So it's the same distance as before. It's still a very narrow shot. So to recap, the lower the focal length, the wider the shot, the higher the focal length, the more narrow your shot will be. Then we have the aperture, and this is also a very important setting when setting up your camera. So what does the aperture do? Well, the lower the aperture, the more background blur you will have, and the higher the aperture, the more things will be in focus. I can show you this right now. When I higher the aperture to the maximum, which is 22, everything in this shot is in focus. Well, the background is blurred a tiny bit, but almost nothing. When I lower this completely to the lowest, which is 1, then the whole background is blurred out, even the front of the gun is blurred. So we will need to higher this a bit so the gun is in focus and the background is still blurred. So this would be amazing for a cinematic shot. There are two more options, the auto exposure and the auto focus. If you want to make a night scene, you can turn off the auto exposure and you can lower the exposure right here. But you can also do this in post-production, so I don't really use this. You can also higher the exposure for some kind of heavenly scene, but again, you can do this in post. So I use auto exposure, so I capture everything, and then afterwards I can edit the frame like I want in Resolve or Premiere or After Effects, whatever you want to use. Then the last setting is the autofocus, and this works the same as a camera. It's pretty smart. When the player is in the shot, it will probably focus on the player. If there is no player in the shot, then it will focus on the biggest element on your screen, the element in the foreground or a big element in the background. So when you turn this off, you can choose what to focus on. So when you lower the focus distance, the elements in the foreground will be in focus. And when you higher the focus distance, the elements in the background will be in focus. You can use this to make some creative stuff, but most of the time you will want to enable this because the autofocus is pretty smart. Like you see, it focuses on the player. Every time I move, it refocuses. So this is very good. So that's the basic explanation of the camera settings. Right here on the left, you see this eye, and when you click on that, all the overlay elements will disappear so you can start filming your shot. When you want to get the overlay elements back, you can double click on escape and then everything will be back to normal. Something important to think about is to make sure your FPS isn't enabled and isn't on top of your footage. When you go to your settings right here and you scroll down, you can see show FPS. And when this is enabled, you will see your FPS right here. So when you disable all the overlay elements, your FPS will still be on the screen. And I saw some montages of people where this was the case. It's something that's easy to forget, so make sure that this isn't on your screen. I will disable it again because I don't want to film everything again when I forget to turn it off. The third person mode is amazing to make shots of someone who is running, so the camera will follow the person and you can move around while he is running. When I make shots like this, I usually lower the speed right here to 0.10. That's the lowest you can go, and you can also increase the speed when editing, so I use the lowest speed possible, and you can always speed up your footage when editing, so I use 0.10 for these kind of shots. Then when you want to start filming, you click on the eye to disable all the overlays. You enable your recording program. So for me, that's Alt+Z. And then right here in the GeForce Experience overlay, you can click on record. And then right here, you can start or stop it. Let's press Alt+Z again to go back. And then when you are ready to start recording, you press on the space bar. The person starts running in slow motion, you move a bit so you get some kind of cinematic shot. So this is one of the methods to record your cinematic shots, and this is the method that I use the most. And once again, you can download my footage in the description so you can edit this together with me. Now another technique I use to make the footage for my montage is the wide angle drone shot to make some environment shots that look really epic. So I will show you how to do this right now. Let's press escape 2 times so we can go back to the editor and then change the shot from third person to drone free right here. So right now we are in the free mode and we can use the controls here at the bottom to control our drone. So first of all, we will click on the camera icon and we will change our focal length to 10 millimeters. You can also do this by scrolling. With Q and E, I can control the height of the drone. So this is how it looks like. And then with my arrow keys or with these keys right here, I can control the drone to fly forward, backwards, to the right and to the left. With the controls right here, you can change the speed of the drone. So this is perfect when you are searching a location. So when I increase the speed of my drone on the left, you can see the speed, and then you can just move really fast to search a location while you are looking around. So all these shots I took for the montage are on this location. So I will recreate one of these shots. Of course, it will not be exactly the same, but I will show you how I took it. So I was flying around to search a nice shot and I saw this water right here reflected the building. So what I did was I lowered my drone. Oh, this is too high. Let's decrease the speed of the drone to 1. Okay. Let's move a bit up like this. So you see that this is a nice reflection. So now let's move to the front. Make sure the shot is perfectly aligned, that your drone is in the middle of this little pool of water. And then make sure you aim it right. Okay, this looks pretty good. So now let's lower the drone speed even more to 0.25. And now when we move backwards, it's still too fast. So even more to 0.1. So you see, this is really nice. So how did I make this shot? I moved to the front. I disabled the overlays. I did look a bit down. And then I started going backwards while moving my mouse upwards, so the building kind of revealed. So this is how I made that shot. You can use this to make a lot of epic shots of the area, etc. Another thing you can use to make interesting shots is when a player is getting killed. The drone that picks up the player, it has some lighting effects, and that's what I use in one of my shots. So I will also quickly show that right now. Let's press escape 2 times and then go to the first kill of Kincredible, because he is the person that killed. Now to search the right moment, let's change from drone free to third person. So right here you see that Kincredible is going in for the kill. So he is running outside, he jumps over this fence. First he is camping a bit because why not? Then he will jump over this fence. Okay. Let's pause this, and right here you see the player that he will be killing. So let's move the shot to this position and continue playing. Okay, he will shoot one time first, the player doesn't die, and then the second time he shoots, this is when the player dies, and this is the moment I used in my montage. So let's move the frame to right here. Okay, let's change the speed to the lowest possible. Okay, and you see right here, this lighting effect, this is the one I used. So we will increase the focal length by scrolling so we can go closer and we get more background blur, and the shot is more narrow. So because we are using a high focal length, we get a very narrow shot and the lighting effects of the drone fill most of the screen. Okay, I think this was the shot I used. So now when you disable the overlays and you press on space, you see that all these lighting effects, this is what I was using in my montage. So these are the two options I use the most, the third person and then the drone free. Now, of course, you also have the gameplay option, and then you cannot move the screen, but you will see the perspective of the person that's playing. This can also be really useful for in your montages, but this is more for a gameplay montage instead of a cinematic montage. If this video receives 100 likes, I will also make a separate tutorial purely for gameplay with speed ramps, lighting effects, etc. So if you really want a tutorial, like this video and I will probably make it. The last thing I need to show you in this editor is how you can easily find players in your area to switch to their perspective. Right here you can see this arrow is colored white, so this is the player we are inspecting right here, Incredible. Let's say you get shot by a sniper from right there behind that tree. You can see here on the minimap that there are two players right there, the one colored in purple and the one in light green. When we click on this icon right here, we can see the players that are in our area, and when we go over them, we can see them highlighted on the map. So either this person or this person is shooting at us. So let's click on this person right here, and we can see that this is a sniper. So let's go to third person, zoom out. So it's possible that this person was shooting at us, so you can check it out, check the gameplay and see if you can film something of their gameplay to use in the montage to show the other perspective of the person who is shooting. This was everything for the recording of the footage. When I was done, I had a folder with all my footage inside it. So then it's time to go to our editing program, which is DaVinci Resolve. If you don't have it yet, I will link it down in the description so you can download it. It's completely free, and then we can start editing our amazing montage. Okay, welcome to DaVinci Resolve. I will explain the features which we will be using, and even if you already know DaVinci Resolve, maybe you will find some things you didn't know before. We will be recreating this montage that I made and that you saw in the intro, and we will start from scratch. You should begin by creating a folder structure right here on the left, and to add folders you just right click on new bin, give it a name, and it's created. So I will go over the bins which I created. To start, I created two folders, one folder called to use and one folder called used. When you're editing, it's useful to know which clips you have already added to your timeline and which clips you still can choose from to get some other shots. So for example, when you add this clip to your timeline, you take out the good parts and you add it to your montage. Then you move this clip to the used folder and it disappears right here. So afterwards, if you need another clip, you can search in the to use folder for a clip that you would like to add to your timeline, and you don't need to worry to check if you have already used that clip because all the used clips are in the used folder. Okay, let's move it back, and then the third map is the sounds. These are 4 sounds I used in my montage, and I will link them in the description so you can download them for yourself. These are all from free sounds. The fourth map is the flares, and they are all from one pack from a blog post, which I will link in the description. You can download them all at the same time, save them to your computer, and then import them right here in DaVinci Resolve. When you right click right here, you can click on import media and you can import the clips which you want. Click on open and they will be added to your folder. Let's delete them first. Okay. Then the next is the compound clips, and this is just to make sure all the folders are staying clean. A compound clip is like a folder, and I will show you exactly what it is. So right here in our timeline, let's say you want to combine these two clips and make them one clip. You can select them both, then right click and click new compound clip. Then you can give it a name, let's call it test, create, and then it will create one clip which you can then move and edit. But the two separate clips didn't disappear. If you right click on a compound clip and you click open in timeline, then it will open the compound clip, and like I said, it's a folder that holds other files inside. Right here on the bottom you see we were in the timeline 1 and now we are one level deeper into the test folder or compound clip. When we double click on timeline, we go back to the timeline, and if you ever want to go back to the separate clips, you can right click a compound clip and then click on decompose in place, and they will be decomposed again and you have your clips back. So whenever we make a compound clip, we make sure that we move it to this compound clips folder so our other folders don't get messy. Let's delete it because we don't need it, okay. And then the last map is projects, and right here I have the main project, which is this project right here, and we will be making a new one for this tutorial. Let's right click right here, go to timelines, and then click create new timeline. Okay, right here click on use custom settings, and now we need to choose all our settings. You don't need to touch start timecode. And right here we can give it a name. So let's call it montage tutorial. Okay. Then the number of video tracks and audio tracks, that's right here. So this is one video track. This is a second, a third. You can always create them while you're editing. But let's say we need around 5 video tracks and 4 audio tracks. Okay. But like I said, afterwards you can add them yourself. Then the second tab, format, this is our resolution and our frames per second. As our resolution, this is your choice. You can choose 1080p, so then you just select this right here. You can use 4K, then you select this right here. But if you are filming in 1080p, then there is no point creating a 4K timeline because you will not gain extra pixels. My clips are filmed in 1440p, so I do select a 4K resolution because I think that 1440p is a weird resolution to upload on YouTube, but maybe that's just personal. But another very important thing to mention is that my timeline isn't normal 4K because I chose to create the video in a 21:9 aspect ratio instead of 16:9 because this looks much more cinematic, and since we are making a cinematic Fortnite montage, I thought this would be a good idea. So we need to change the pixels manually. So on top click custom, then as your width you can choose 3840 if you want to go for 4K resolution, and if you want to go for 1080p resolution then you select 1920 right here. And now we need to select the height because the height will be less than in a normal 16:9 resolution and we will have to calculate it. So in my case I use a 4K resolution, so 3840 as our width. Now to find the height, let's take our calculator and insert the width right here. Now the aspect ratio is 21:9 and 21 stands for the width. So let's divide the amount of pixels wide by 21 and then multiply it by 9 for the height, since our aspect ratio is 21 width by 9 height. So multiply it by 9, and then we see that our height should be 1645 pixels. Now I noticed while making this montage that when exporting, I always got an error when using this resolution, and the error was that I was using a weird aspect ratio, and it always worked when I used 1644. So this is what I will be inserting right here. Now if you want to create your montage in normal HD resolution, then you should divide 1920 by 21 and then multiply it by 9 to get the height, and then your height should be 822 or 23 pixels. Okay, then the timeline frame rate, I will use 60 right here because I filmed in 60 frames per second and I think that it looks really nice for gaming footage. So 60 right here, you can choose 30 if you want. Then the monitor right here, I use 1080p 60 FPS, and it's the preview that you are seeing right here. So you can choose 720p to save some computer power, but I use 1080p 60 FPS right here. Then the output shouldn't be changed. You should just select use timeline settings for output scaling and then click on create, and your timeline is created. Now, before adding clips to our timeline and starting to edit them, there's something else I need to explain to make your editing much more smooth. When we go to the to use tab right here, you should have imported all your clips. And the last time I will mention it, I did add a download for those clips to the description if you want to make this tutorial together with me. Okay, so these are all our clips that we will be using, but they are 1440p 60 FPS, and that's pretty heavy to handle to edit in real time and scrub to the footage. I will show you when we add this to our timeline and we scrub through it, it isn't really smooth, and especially not if you have some clips layered on each other. It will really start to stutter. So how can we fix this? Well, those who already work with other editing programs will know something like proxies, and DaVinci Resolve also has something like that, but it's called optimized media. Now, what is optimized media? Well, for each clip right here, DaVinci Resolve can create a separate clip that is a lower resolution and much easier to work with. Then right here on the top, in playback, you can select use optimized media if available. So after you created the optimized media, if you select this right here, DaVinci Resolve will make sure it uses that alternate clip when you are editing your project. Then when you are done editing and you export the project, DaVinci Resolve will automatically use the source files and make sure it's in a higher resolution. I already made those files, so you see when I select use optimized media if available, and now I add a clip to my timeline, you can see that I can scrub to it much more smooth than before. Maybe it isn't that visible on YouTube, but for me it is really visible. So I will delete this and I will show you how you can create optimized media. It's as simple as right-clicking a clip and then clicking on generate optimized media. But before you are doing this, you first need to select the settings that will be used to create the optimized media. So on the bottom right, click on the gear icon and then go to master settings. Then when you scroll down a bit, right here you will see optimized media and render cache. Now the settings right here are the settings that will be used to render the alternate files that will be used while editing. I use these settings and it's really great for me. My footage almost never lags and I can edit really smooth. So you can copy these settings. If your footage is still too heavy to work with, you can click this drop down and maybe select quarter right here. Now, what is this? If you select original, then your original resolution will be used to create those files. When you select quarter right here, then your optimized media will have a quarter of the resolution of your original media. But be careful with this, because when you were filming in 1080p and then you select quarter right here, then the resulting footage, the optimized media, will be of a very low quality and it will probably be very hard to edit with them because everything will be pixelated, etc. So I wouldn't recommend selecting quarter, so let's go for half right here. Then the format, if you are editing on an Apple machine, you can select Apple ProRes right here, but I select this file size right here. It's a really small file size, it's very easy to work with for DaVinci Resolve, and for me this works great. Then right here, working folders, this is where your optimized media will be stored. So click on browse and choose where you want to store them. For me it's on this hard drive, and then right here Resolve cache or Resolve media storage. Both these folders are for these files. So I will click on OK. I already did this one. So choose the destination right here and then click on save. Now select all your footage, right click and then click on generate optimized media, and this will take some time to render. For me it took like half an hour, but I also edit my YouTube videos with DaVinci Resolve, and when I need to convert a 2-hour clip for my YouTube video, then it takes about 3 to 4 hours. So make sure not to capture too much footage because you will have to convert it right here, and the more footage you take, the longer it will take to convert it. So let's move this a bit to the side. because we want a bigger timeline. And then it's finally time to start editing our montage. I know it was a lot of information before starting, but it's all important information and it will make our editing process much easier. So right now what we will be doing is we will be adding these clips one by one to our timeline. We will cut out the good parts, keep them, delete all the bad parts, and then we will go on by adding music, etc. So first of all, let's take one clip, drag it to here, and then we need to cut out the good parts and move it to our used folder. To move around in your timeline, you want to hold the Alt key and then scroll to zoom in and zoom out. Do note that Resolve always zooms in to where your playhead is. In Premiere Pro, when you position your cursor right here and you zoom in to your cursor, but in Resolve you always zoom in to your playhead. Then when you are zoomed in and you want to move from left to right, instead of dragging the bar on the bottom, you can also hold Alt and scroll, but right now position your cursor on this top border so you can scroll from left to right. So when you're in your timeline, you zoom in and out with scrolling, and when you hold your cursor right here, then you can go from left to right. Now to edit this footage, there are a few ways you can do it. Let's go to the beginning of our clip, and before going on, let's zoom in because we filmed in a 16:9 aspect ratio and our timeline is 21:9. So when you select your footage right here on the top right, you can see the inspector window. If you don't see it, click on inspector and it will appear. And then right here you see zoom X and Y. And when this is enabled, they will be linked and you will zoom on the X and the Y axis. When you disable this, you can only stretch the height or only the width, but we will not be using that. So let's press Ctrl Z till it's back to normal. Okay, so this is enabled. And now we can zoom in till the black borders disappear. And then right here we can change the Y position because we have some extra height to work with, so you can adjust it for every separate clip to whatever looks the best. Okay, so let's say you want to cut right before the sniper is zooming in, which is right here. Okay, there are a few ways to make a cut. The first way is what I am using almost every time, and it's by clicking Ctrl or Command B to make a cut where your playhead is. So when a clip is selected and you move your playhead, you can just press Ctrl B, and then you make cuts on that position. Then after making a cut, you can delete it by clicking on backspace and the part will be deleted. Now do mind that in DaVinci Resolve there is a difference between the backspace and the delete button. You see, like I just did, the backspace just deletes the clip, but when we click the delete button, then you see that the blank space gets filled because everything from behind gets pulled to the front. To better see how this works, let's make another cut right here. Okay, so now when we want to delete this part, backspace just deletes it. But when we press delete, then you see it connects again. And when is this useful? Well, when you have edited a lot of things, and let's say, for example, you have a clip right here on top, and then on top you have another clip. If you now want to delete a part, let's say this part, you want to delete this, you click backspace, and then you move this to connect it again, but these clips don't move with it. So you can select everything and then move it. But when you have a lot of things on your timeline, it's hard to select everything. So you can click the delete button. And as you see, when we do that and we click the delete button, everything moves with the clip. So this is very useful. Okay, let's go back a bit. Okay. Of course, when you made a cut, you can also grab the edge and shorten it so you can connect it again. Or you can change from this cursor to this right here, which is the trim mode. And what happens when you are using the trim mode? Well, you can grab an edge and then trim it and then everything will move. So let's say right here you have a cut, then you move your playhead and you say, well, right here, everything from this cut to this playhead has to be deleted. You can click Ctrl B, delete that and move it, or press delete button to close the gap. But you can also use this trim mode and then just position your playhead right here and then use the trimmer to trim it till your playhead touches the clip, and then the cut will be perfect like that. The final way people like cutting in DaVinci Resolve is right here by using the blade edit mode. And what this does is it gives you a blade and you can move across your timeline, choose a part where you want to make a cut and just click, and then you will make cuts. So you can make cuts in your footage like this, and then afterwards you can delete parts which you want to delete and keep parts which you want to keep, etc. So let's press Ctrl Z till we have the full clip again. And right now you should cut away all the bad parts and only keep the good parts. This is a clip I didn't choose in my montage, so I will delete it and go to the to use map and then import another clip. And this is a clip I did use right here when the player is walking by. This is something that was in my montage. So let's say you did cut out all the bad parts and now, for example, you're left with 4 good clips. Then it's time to move the clip to the used folder and import the next clip and then cut out the good parts right here. And this is the part I used in my montage, so I will also cut that out and move it to the left to the other clips that I will be keeping. So then move it to used, import the next clip, etc. You know how this works by now. You import all the clips, cut out the bad parts till you're left with all the parts that you want to use in your montage. Okay, so then it's time for the next step, and that is adding our music. So right now we have all our separate clips which we will be using right here. So I will import the music right here. I will also link it in the description. It's a song from the NCS channel. So let's move it right here to our timeline. And now before going on, I did already place my playhead right here because I did cut the song at 30 seconds 58. So let's press Ctrl B. Okay, and then click backspace to delete the part in the front and then move it to here. And I did delete the front part because right now the drop comes faster, and that was better for in the intro because otherwise you guys had to wait 1 minute to get the drop of the song. What you should do right now is taking all your clips, moving them a bit to the right, and then moving them one by one in the order that you want them to be in your song. So let's say I want to have this clip to be displayed first, because this is the intro. Then you move it to the front. So then you should zoom in a bit and listen to the music. And when you say, well, this is a good time to make the transition, then you just move in the next clip and connect it. And then also cut the clip to the right point, so that when you replay the montage, it fits with the music. Of course, you can also play with the speed of the clips. The simplest way to make a clip, for example, start very fast and then immediately go to very slow at a drop or something like that, is to cut it in half with Ctrl B or Command B. Then right click on the clip that you want to go faster. Click on change clip speed, make sure that ripple sequence is selected, and then for example change the speed to 300. Click on change, and now this part will be 300 speed and this part will still be 100. So then when you play it, you see first it goes fast and then immediately it goes slow. Now the more stylish way to do this is to use a retime curve, and to do that let's press Ctrl Z to go back. Okay, right click on the clip and then click retime curve right here. Okay, so now click on this drop down arrow, deselect retime frame and select retime speed. Okay, so now you just go to the part in the clip where you say, okay, for example, when she releases her parachute, this point should be really slow and everything in front of it should be really fast. So then at this point you make a keyframe right here, okay? Then you take the front part or the back part, so in this case the front part, to make it go faster, you slide it up till it says, for example, like the previous time, 300%. Okay, and 300 is the maximum because you see we don't see the top line again, but when we grab this line right here, we can drag it down and we can't get it faster than 300%. So let's use 300, And right now it's actually the same as the previous one, because first it goes 300% and then immediately it drops to 100. So when we play it, you will see that it's the same. Okay, actually this looks really nice when she throws the parachute and then immediately it goes slow. Okay, I didn't do this in my montage, but we will do it in this one. Okay, so now the speed drops immediately, but we can make it go in a smooth motion. And to do that, we click on this keyframe right here, and then we select this instead of this. Okay, so when we click on the first thing, now it will be a curve. And now we can grab these lines right here to make the change in speed more sudden or over a much longer duration. So let's use something like this. Okay. And now let's play it. And my screen was lagging a bit. The second time it probably won't. Okay, it still was lagging, but when you render this out, the motion will be much smoother than when you just cut it in half, make one piece very fast and then one piece very slow. In some cases, it may be better to make a sudden drop because it looks very good on a drop. Immediately it goes slow, but in most cases, a retime curve will be the cleanest option. So now do this for all your clips. Cut them where you want them to stop, because another clip has to start because there was a drop in the music or a beat or a snare or something like that. And retime the curves that you want to retime till you have used all your clips or your song is ending and you kind of have the flow of the whole montage. Okay, so right now I adjusted all the clips and I did add them to the timeline, and you see right here when my friend is launching his shot, that is exactly on the drop of the music, and that's what you want because people are looking forward to the epic drop with the epic shot or the epic snipe, etc. So you want to emphasize that drop, and later on when we are editing the effects, we will also add some extra effects to the drop, so it really has a big impact on the montage. So when we go to the beginning now, this is what it looks like. And I will pause it because right here you saw that there was a black screen. So when we zoom in, we see that right here there is no footage. So we can extend one of the two sides. So it is perfect. So let's play it again. You see, the transition right here was just after the beat, so it would probably be better to shorten this and then make this start faster. Let's play it again. Okay, this is better. So when you are cutting on a drop, you either cut right on the drop or right in front. When you cut right after the drop, it looks really bad. And I try to always cut right in front of the drop. And when I say drop, I don't always mean a big drop, but I mean like a clear base where you know you have to cut. So right here, we did cut right in front of the clear base. But when we later add a transition right here, you will see that the transition starts right here and it ends right here. So you see, when the transition is completed, that is when the bass comes, and that is what gives the satisfying feeling of a good cut. So I advise you to always make your cuts right in front of the bass or whatever you want to cut on. Okay, let's keep this playing to see if the other cuts are good. So you see, all the cuts were in front of the bass, except for the drop that was right on the drop. So when we zoom in right here, this was the shot, and you see when we zoom in, okay, let's go a bit to here, right here is the drop, and when we scroll, we see that the shot right here comes right on the drop, and on a drop that gives a more satisfying feeling than cutting right in front of the drop. So let's play it again, this part. So you see, the shot is right on the drop, and that's how it should be. Here we have the shot with all the colors. And right here again, a cut before the bass. Okay, so this is the outro. So now all the cuts are made. I did only retime this. If I would make a very professional montage, I would probably speed ramp. That's what this is called. I would probably speed ramp all the clips to make it more satisfying, because you have to say this is pretty satisfying. But right now, let's keep it at this and let's start adding the transitions and the effects. So let's start with the transitions. There are some basic transitions in DaVinci Resolve, and we will definitely be using one of those, but I also have separate transitions that I downloaded from another video or someone who had a pack, and I will also link them, yes, in the description, so you can download them for yourself and then we can use them. So right here for the transition of these two clips, let's zoom in a bit, and you can see right here when it transitions, immediately after the transition, this clip is spinning really hard. So we will be adding a wipe transition. So when this shot right here wipes away, this shot comes in and it keeps spinning because the shot spins really fast before it slows down. So to do this, like I already said, we will use a transition that I will link in the description. And before applying it, we need to do one thing. Place your playhead right between these two clips, then go 6 frames to the left. Okay, so you click 6 times, you press Ctrl B, you go again to the middle, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 to the right, then you make a cut right there. Okay, so now you have 6 frames of the first shot and 6 frames of the second shot. You select them both, you right click and you click on new compound clip, and let's call it transition 1. Okay, create, and right here the compound clip is created, and luckily we were already in our compound clips, so we don't need to move it. Okay, so now we will need to apply an effect to this, and to do that we will be using the Fusion tab of DaVinci Resolve. So before going to the Fusion tab, you need to make sure that your playhead is at the start or somewhere on this clip right here. Make sure it's not completely on the right of the clip, because when the playhead is positioned at the end of a clip, DaVinci Resolve sees it as the playhead being placed at the beginning of the next clip. So make sure the playhead is at the beginning or somewhere in the middle. Okay, then click on Fusion. So right here we are in the Fusion window to change the effects of the compound clip, because right here on the top you can see it goes from frame 0 to frame 12 right here. When we click through it, we see that right here in the middle at frame 6 it changes to the second clip, and Fusion works with a node-based system. So right here you can see the nodes. This is the media in. Then right here in the middle we will add the effect, so the wipe transition. And then this media out is what will be displayed for the viewer. So right here I have a folder with the 4 effects that I will be sharing in the description, and we need the wipe transition right. So let's move this aside, hold the wipe transition right and drag it to here in the middle between the media in and the media out. Just release it and it will be placed in the middle, and now everything is connected. If it's not connected, let's double click right here and double click right here. If it just moves in and this is still connected, then you can just grab this right here, move it to here to connect this, and then click right here, hold it, move it to media out. Okay, you need to move it exactly on the triangle. Okay, and then it is in the middle. And right here we see that the transition is working because 6 is the middle frame and this is completely in the middle of the transition. On the start it is still like this, and then you see that this is the transition. Okay, now we have one problem, because you see right here for the transition it zooms out a bit. So on the top and on the bottom we have a transparent piece. So let's go back on the bottom to the edit window, and then right here this is our transition. Now it is hard for your computer to render the effect in real time when you are playing the clip. So what it does right here, you can see this blue line. When you first apply the effect and come back to your edit window, it will still be red, and then it will render it piece by piece till it's completely blue, and now the transition is rendered. So you need to wait for that to preview it. So now let's preview. And you see my PC is already lagging a bit because I am editing, I am recording, there are other things running on my computer, so it goes a bit slow, but I will move the playhead and you see right here that the transition is working. But like I said, we have a problem because you see right here, we have some transparent pieces. So how will we fix this? Well, let's zoom in on the compound clip, place our cursor at the front, and now with the left and right keys, we can go frame by frame. So now right click frame by frame, and right here on the bottom you see as the transition goes further, the transparent piece gets bigger and bigger. To the middle it's at its biggest, and then it goes down again. So what will we be doing? We will be adding keyframes to make sure that this clip right here starts as this, then it zooms in a bit so that this is hidden, and then it zooms out again. So to do this, place your cursor at the beginning of the clip where we see zoom. Let's click on the keyframe, then move your cursor to the end and click on the keyframe again. So the first and the last point of the clip are always the normal size. Then you move your cursor to the middle of the clip, and then you zoom in a bit till the transparent piece has disappeared. So let's zoom in to like 190. Okay, so this works. So right now when we place our cursor in the beginning, we see that this is a normal frame. Then the transition goes on while it is zooming in, and we have no transparent border on the bottom. And the transition progresses till the end, and still no transparent border, or maybe a little one. But if you want to be sure, you can make it zoom in further in the middle, so there is absolutely no border showing up on the top or the bottom. Let's save it for when my PC crashes again. And then the second transition, and this will be a very easy one because it's a basic transition that's built into DaVinci Resolve. Let's zoom out a bit and go to the second cut in our montage, and it's right here. Let's play this. Okay, so here we need a transition. So let's just on top click on Effects Library. Here we can click on Video Transitions, and then at the top right here we have Blur Dissolve, and this is the transition that we will be using. So let's drag this transition to our timeline, and then right where we want the transition to be, we just release, and right here the transition will be placed on top of our footage. So let's watch it. Okay, so it gets blurred, then when the blur is at its maximum, then the footage transitions, and then the blur becomes normal again, and we are in our second shot. So let's play this. Okay, it lags a bit, but this is a really nice transition. Okay, so that's everything for this transition. Then for the third transition, that's right here from this shot to this shot, and we will be using a standard effect too, and there are a few options. Some effects that work in a montage like this are the non-additive dissolve, so let's drag that on top, and that looks like this. But you can also use the additive dissolve, then it looks like this. So let's use this one because I think it looks really nice. Okay, so this is our next transition, and then let's scroll through this footage, and now we need to transition from here to here. And let's do that with a cross dissolve because that's also a nice effect. Let's grab it right here, place it on top, and then let's see how this looks. Okay, this is really nice. We can also use a smooth cut if we want. So let's go back, drag this to here, and let's see this. It's too hard to render. So let's go through it frame by frame to see how it looks. Okay, this has some kind of warp effect to it. So I think that this is nicer because there's that futuristic glider right here, and with that warp effect, I think that looks pretty nice. So let's do that. Okay, yeah. Let's use this. So then the next one is right here. And I think that right here, it's nice to add a wipe transition again, because the sniper is looking this way and then this person is looking to the sniper that way. So when we have a turn transition, then it looks like we are turning the camera around and looking at the other side. So a wipe transition makes a lot of sense right here. So let's do that. So again, place your cursor between these two clips. 6 frames to the left, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, okay. Make a cut, place it in the middle, 6 to the right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, okay. Make a cut, and then let's select both of these clips, right click, new compound clip. Let's just create it. And we created a compound clip, but I do not know where it is stored. So on top, let's go to media pool, and then right here we see that we still were in the compound clips, so it's okay. We don't want our files to be messy, but right here is where it should be. Okay, so then make sure your cursor is in front or somewhere in the middle of this compound clip and click on the Fusion tab on the bottom. Now go to your Explorer and search the transitions, and since we used the right one the previous time, let's choose the left one right now. So drag the left one right here in the middle, release, and here it is. Let's save to be certain, and then go to the Edit tab on the bottom. And we see when we go through it frame by frame that it looks like the camera is turning to the other way, and there the sniper is looking at the other sniper. But of course, again, we have some transparent pieces on the top and the bottom right here. So again, go to the front of the compound clip, make a keyframe for the zoom, go to the end, make another keyframe for the zoom, go to the middle, and right now zoom in to like 110 to be certain. Okay, and then let's move through it frame by frame. And we see right now that we do not have these transparent pores on the top or on the bottom anymore. So right here you see it is rendering, there is still one part of red. When it's done rendering, like now, it is blue. So now we can preview it. Okay, so this is the last transition which we added. Now we need to transition from here to here. Effects are nice, transitions are nice, but when you have too much transitions, it becomes kind of a show. So actually I think for the next transition right here that I'm going to use a normal cut, and then from here to here also a normal cut, because after this the drop is coming, and when we use a normal cut 2 times, the flow of the montage kind of gets pretty flat, and then when the drop hits and we throw in effects and transitions and everything, it's like bam, and that's what we are looking for. So we will create a calm mood by using no transitions for 2 cuts, and then after that the transition on the drop will be amazing. So it will be like this. Okay, right now we need to go really hard and we need to take the viewer into the action, and we can do that by using a zoom in transition, and that is also a transition that I will link below, because when we go to the file explorer we used these 2 transitions, and this is the zoom transition. It's in 2 parts. So let's go back to DaVinci Resolve, and then the cut should be from here to here. So let's place our playhead in the middle of these 2 clips, zoom in, and then again 6 frames to the left, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, and then 6 frames to the right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Make a cut, and now instead of creating one compound clip for these 2 clips together, we need to create a compound clip for every clip on its own. So let's right click on the first of the 2, click on new compound clip, create, then the second one, right click, new compound clip, create. Okay, now we need to add an effect to the first compound clip and an effect to the second compound clip. So let's make sure our playhead is in front of the first compound clip. On the bottom, click on Fusion. Now go to your file explorer and then zoom part 1. Let's drag this to the middle right here. Okay, so that's the first part. Now go back to the edit screen right here. Make sure the playhead is in the beginning or on top of this compound clip, the second one. Click on Fusion, go back to your file explorer, and now we need to add part 2 right here. But before doing this, don't skip this part because it's really important. I cannot share these files with you because they are created by someone else, so I can only share the link to the video. But when you download them both, so part 1 and part 2, you need to change something to part 2, okay? So right click on part 2, then click open with, and then select your notepad, okay? So you open it with notepad, then you scroll to the bottom, and right here, sample spread input value will probably be 0, and you need to change this to 0.03, comma. Okay, if you don't do this, then the part 2 will not work. So make sure you change this, you save it, close it, and then part 2 is ready. So then you can just drag it to here, release it, and here is part 2. Okay, so now let's go back to the edit screen and we will scrub through it with our arrow keys. So let's click right. So here we start zooming in, and then we go to the second clip. We keep zooming in till it's right here, and then when we are zoomed in, bam, here is the shot. Okay, let's save this. So let's give Resolve some time by doing nothing. Then it will start rendering right here as you see. And okay, now it's rendered, so now we can preview it. So let's start from right here. Okay, of course it is lagging a bit, but you see what will be happening. You also saw it in the intro. It looks very nice. So now we need to do 2 more transitions, and after that, when we start applying effects, we will be adding a lot of effects to this right here to make sure it really has an impact on the drop. So after this clip, I would again use a normal transition, so we really emphasize this drop and the effects are over the top, the transition is very nice, and then after that we have a clean cut again. So when we keep this playing, we will just transition to this clip right here because it looks really nice. Okay, let's keep this playing. And then it transitions to right here. And we use a normal transition again for the last clip. So we kind of fade out on the transitions and we create a really calm mood for the end of the montage. Because after this we get a really calm shot, which is this one. So let's fade out on the effects, use a normal cut, and then we end the montage after this. Okay, let's save this again to be certain. And before adding all the flares which we downloaded, which by the way will make the montage look much nicer, we will first add a few sound effects. So let's click on sounds right here on the left, and we have 4 sounds. So we have a shotgun sound effect, then a big bass drop for right after the shotgun sound effect, then a parachute sound for when the player is throwing out his glider. So then we can add this effect, and then a whoosh effect if you want to add it when we make a wipe transition, but it's not needed because sometimes it can be distracting. So that's your choice if you use that or not. So let's go to the parachute right here in the beginning. Right here, from the moment that the parachute gets thrown out, we can add this effect. So let's drag this to right here and let's listen to how this sounds. Okay, let's play it again. This sound effect is too late, so we will move it a bit to the front, and let's listen now. I think this looks nice, so let's keep it at this. You can play with it like you want. Okay, let's save it to be certain, and then let's add the big bass drop and the shotgun sound with the reload. So let's move to where the drop is. So right here, when you zoom in, you can see in this waveform, it's clear that this is the drop. So let's add the big bass drop right there, like this. Again, I need to listen to it through my headphones because I'm not certain if it sounds nice or not. So let's just listen again. Okay, it's a bit too much because I'm getting distortion. So let's move this to -4 decibels. I didn't mention this yet, so on an audio clip, you can drag this line and you can move it to increase or decrease the decibels. You can also click on it and then right here on the top change the volume. Right here you can keyframe the volume if you want, but I like to move this line right here. Okay, let's listen to it again. Okay, this sounds really nice. So let's keep it at this, and now we will add the shotgun sound effect. So let's zoom out a bit, drag the shotgun sound to here, and we have a few reload and shoot moments, but the last one is nice. Let's listen to it. Okay, so this is what we want, and we need the reload sound and the shot sound separately, because then we can position them both correctly. So let's shorten this. Okay, like this. Now let's place our playhead right here and zoom in. Okay, let's move this a bit. Right here we will separate them, Control B or Command B. Okay, let's listen if this sound is disturbing or not. Okay, so we don't need anything after this. So this is our shot sound, and then this is our reload sound. Okay, so now we need to place them both correctly. So let's see where we want to do the reload. Right here, this person before the drop is reloading his gun. Of course, the reload sound which we hear will be the reload sound of the player right there, to which we transition. But it's nice if you hear a click when this person pulls his trigger back, because then we get a double reload sound. So let's add the first of the 2 reload clicks to the moment where he slides this to the front. So let's scrub to this, and right here he is sliding it. So let's position this like this. Okay, let's zoom in a bit to position it more correctly. Okay, and now let's see how this sounds and looks. Okay, maybe it should be a bit sooner. Let's look at this. Okay, no, this is much too soon. Let's just listen to the music instead of watching the sniper, because he's reloading in slow motion and the click isn't in slow motion, so it doesn't go together. So let's just make sure that the click flows perfectly into the song. So it's like chuk chuk boom. Okay, so that is what we will be doing. So let's scrub through this and let's play it. Okay, a bit sooner and then it will be perfect. Okay, that's perfect. Chuk chuk. Okay, that's what we want. Now we will need to add this shot on top of the bass drop. So let's shorten this like this. Okay, move it here and let's see how this sounds. Okay, that's pretty nice. So let's play this from here. Okay, that's nice. So right now that's all for the sound effects. If you want to use the whoosh, you can do that. Let's see where we have a transition where we can use it. Okay, not right here, not right here. Okay, right here we could use the whoosh transition. So let's see. Let's move this to here. Okay, and then let's listen to this. You can use this if you want, but I don't really like it, so I will delete it, but it's your choice. Okay, I will remove these headphones because now the sound isn't that important anymore. So let's save this again to be sure. And I didn't mention this already, when you make the slightest adjustment, then right here on the top next to the name of your project, you see edited right here. And the longer you don't save, the more red this will become. So when you move over this, then you see saved a few seconds ago. When you haven't saved for half an hour, it will probably be very yellow, and then it will say not saved for 30 minutes. And when it's very long, like an hour or something, then it will become really red and you will really see that you have to save. So this is kind of a reminder to save every now and then, so you can always keep this white, because it's possible that the program crashes. It's also the beta of the DaVinci Resolve 16, so I mean, it's possible that it crashes. So now it's time to add our flares, and it's actually pretty easy to add them. You really need to try some things out and see what works, but I will show you how you can try them out. So on the left here we go to the flares, and then you can preview them by moving over them with your cursor. So you see now this is kind of a blue line going from the top to the bottom. Then this also, then this first one. You see this is a really big flare. So let's see how this looks. So we move this right here to our project, but we move it a bit to the top because you see on the bottom you have the sound wave, and if I would release it right now, then it will move on top of the other sounds. So that's not what we want. So let's move this up like this to like the fourth wave. And then we see when we move it aside where it will come, there is no other sound effect there. So we can just release it and be certain that it won't overlay over anything. So we don't need the sound of this. So what we can do is we click on it, right click, link clips is now enabled. So we disable it, we click away, and then now we click right here, and now only this is selected, this is not selected with it. So we click right here, click on backspace, not delete, or everything will be shortened. So just backspace, and then this gets deleted. So that's perfect. Right now we can move this to the bottom to right here, just on top of our footage. And now we need to change the composite mode from normal to add. Okay. So now all the black will be removed, and you see when we scrub through this, okay, you see that it's 16 by 9. So we need to zoom in so it fills the whole screen. And the lens flares mimic how your screen would look if the sun was shining right into your lens and you kind of have a flare like this. And you have to be honest, it really makes the shot much nicer, because when we disable it, see, this is how the shot was, and with the lens flare it looks like this. So that's really nice, right? So now we want to add a lens flare for each shot separately. So if you're creating your own montage and you have some outside footage and then some footage in a building, then make sure that, for example, in the building you don't add a lens flare, and then outside you do add lens flares, and unconsciously viewers will recognize that, and it will really look convincing when you really mimic how it would be in the real world. So you can really try things out with this. If it becomes too harsh, if the lens flare is too bright, for example, you can decrease the opacity right here on the top to, for example, 50%, and then you still have a lens flare, because right here when we disable it, you see, it's still a difference, but not as harsh as before when this was 100. But for this shot, I really like it. So I will use this flare for this shot. So let's shorten it right here. Okay. And then here, okay, this too. And during the transitions, usually you don't need to add the lens flares, because most transitions distort your whole screen and viewers won't really see that the lens flare only applies from the moment that the transition is complete. So then we have a nice lens flare for this clip. Now for the other clips, you can search another lens flare and apply it. For example, right here, this glider looks really futuristic, and I decided to add a blue lens flare to this to really emphasize the blue futuristic effects of this clip. Okay, so let's see how this looks. So right here, for example, 6 is a blue lens flare that moves from the top to the bottom. So let's drag that to here. Okay, and again, we need to watch out for the sound. So let's move this on top to like the 4th or the 5th or even the 6th timeline. Okay. Now again, let's remove the sound right here. Right click, link, so you can delink them. Then click right here, click backspace to remove it. Okay. And now we can drag this clip to the bottom. Okay. Then zoom a bit in, and right here, we want to add it to this clip, but first change this from normal to add. Okay. And then let's see how this will look. So when we scrub through it, we already see the lens flare appearing right here, but it starts too late because the clip is already ending right here. So we will cut out the first part, then move this to right here. Okay. and then we see right here that the lens flare is at the same position as this futuristic glider right here, and this is not what we want because we want it to be more at the bottom, so it really fills the whole screen with this blue futuristic look. So let's remove some of the early parts right here, because right here you see it's already in the middle. So let's move this here, and then you see right here that the blue line really is at the bottom and it keeps moving, so this looks pretty nice. Okay, so you can use something like this. Of course, now I see that it's really a small effect compared to some other effects. So you can search another lens flare right here, so you can find the perfect one, because right here there are sun rays, but there is also this blue line. So when we would add this here, it would be much nicer, the effect, but that's something you need to try out and find the perfect lens flares for each shot. So yeah, on your own, add the lens flares to the shots, and when every shot that needs a lens flare has a lens flare, let's continue by adding more effects to the drop of the montage. Okay, so now actually the last thing to do is to emphasize the drop of the music with some extra effects. And the two effects we will add are camera shake and another effect that's used in a lot of rap music videos. I can't really explain it, but you will see once we apply it. So first of all, let's apply that weird effect. So let's zoom in to our clip. And for the clip before the drop and right after the drop, we are using the same flare because we want a really strong flare for both of these clips. So the flare is building up in this clip. So you can see it building up from here to here. And then when the flare is already pretty strong, we go to the next clip. It gets even stronger. You see right here, this white is really popping out. Actually, it's too much, but because it's a drop, this is okay. And then we move on to the drop, and here there's a really strong flare, but this person and this person are still visible. And later when you apply color correction, this person will still pop out and this person also. So that's perfect. So right here on the drop, we want to have some weird effect, and I will show you how you can apply it. Let's zoom in and move this flare one position up, and then copy this clip by holding your Alt key and moving it one position up. Okay, so now we have 2 times the same clip, and what will we be doing? Well, first of all, click on the top clip of the 2 and then move the opacity to 50%. So now it's an overlay with a 50% opacity, and now we want to make this clip really slow. So right click it, then go to change clip speed, and let's change this to 25%. That will result in 15 frames per second. It's not smooth, but it's for this effect, so it really is okay. And then click on change, and then let's scrub through. So this effect really is visible right now. You can zoom in with your scroll wheel, and then when holding shift, you can go up and down. And with alt, you can go left and right. So when we zoom in, we really see that the effect is coming through. Okay, so now the second thing we will be adding is camera shake, and we will be adding camera shake to one of the 2 clips. So let's add camera shake to the bottom one, because then this effect will become even stronger. So on top, make sure you are in the effects library. Right here you see it's open, then click on open effects right here, and here we see camera shake. You will need to scroll quite a bit down till you find camera shake right here, and then you just drag it to the bottom clip of the 2. You release, okay, and now there is camera shake. Right here you see open effects appearing. If you don't see it, open the inspector window, open effects, and right here you can change a lot of settings. I will keep it default right now, but you can play with this as much as you want. And you see that this camera shake effect is really nice right now. You see right here, this overlay stays at the same position, and then the camera shake is doing a lot of things. If you want even more effects, you can click here, flicker edition. Let's move this to the top of the clips. Okay, and then right here you see all these settings, but let's play this, and you see there is a flicker right now. Okay, so now this is a really strong effect, and we will leave it at this. You can do a lot of things with it, try it out, but this is how I will use it right now. Okay, this is a big drop. Okay, so now there are two things left. The last thing we will do in this tutorial is the color correction, but first I will show you how to do simple tracking. I will probably make a separate video to do advanced tracking, so when you have a big scene, you can add your text to the ground on some kind of element or just in the middle of the field, so when the camera moves it goes around the text or something like that. But right now I will show you how to do simple tracking, and we will do it in this shot right here, and we will be tracking this point right here when we zoom in. Okay, let's move to here. Okay, we will be tracking this point, and then we will attach some text to that so the text stays on this position even though the camera moves a bit. So let's make sure you're at the beginning of this clip, it's selected, and then click on Fusion right here. And this is a perfect opportunity to show you something. So you see we did go to the lens flare composition instead of the clip we wanted, but there is a really easy solution for that if you can't go to the effects of the clip that you want, because right here on top there is a clips tab, and when we click on that we can see all the clips at the bottom right here. So we can just go to the clip that we want, which is this one right here. So when we double click on this, we go to the effects of this clip. So now we can close this clips window, and right here we have our clip. Okay, now right here, right click, add tool, tracking, and then tracker. So now we have a tracker. We move this in to this yellow arrow, and then we move this to that yellow arrow. Okay, now the tracker is in between of the in and out, and now we will start tracking. So when we click on the tracker node, we see a tracker appearing right here. So let's zoom in by holding Control, okay, and drag this around by holding our mouse wheel pressed down. Okay, so now we will need to track this right here. So how do we do this? Well, move over this tracker, and then right here, the top left corner of the inner rectangle, when you click on that and you hold it, you can move this, and you can move it right here on the point which we want to track. So now what is the meaning of these two rectangles? Well, with the inner rectangle, you should target only the point which you want to track. So let's say you have a face and there is one dot on the face. If you want to track that, you should make sure that the rectangle is on top of the dot on the person's face, for example, so it surrounds the dot. And then the outer rectangle, this is the area where DaVinci Resolve will search for the next dot. So if you have your hand right here, and then you have a dot and you surround it with the inner rectangle, and then the outer rectangle is like this wide, so it searches and it finds the dot, and then in the next frame your hand is right here, then it will keep searching in this area for the next dot, but the dot is much further, so it will not find it. So if that is the case, if there is a lot of jumping around, then you should make the outer rectangle really big. So for example, if it's this big, and then the dot gets found right here because the inner rectangle was really small, and then the outer rectangle is like this wide, and then the hand moves to here, it will search the dot between these lines and, for example, this height, and it will find the dot right here. So because this dot right here isn't moving a lot, we can use a small outer rectangle and it will still be able to track everything. So when we click on this, right here on the right, you see pattern width, pattern height, and then search width, search height. So when we move this, we can select this corner right here, okay? And then for the outer one, we can leave it at this. We don't need to make it bigger because there is not a lot of movement. So let's zoom out, and then you can see it live while it is tracking. Okay, so make sure you're positioned in the beginning of the frame completely on the left. Okay, the tracker is positioned correctly. And then right here, when you hover, you can see track forward from current time. So that's what we will be doing. So we will click on that, and then right here you see frame by frame it is tracking. I will try to zoom in. Frame by frame it is tracking this corner right here. And because the frame isn't moving a lot, it always finds the next dot. So it keeps tracking right here, it's almost at the end. Okay, and render complete. It is completely tracked, and right here you can see the path of the tracker and all the keyframes. So let's save right now. So now we need to create a text node and link that to our tracker so the text follows the points of the tracker. So how do we do that? Well, right here, click on this icon to add a text node and then connect that text node right here to the green arrow of the tracker. Now, before going on, some things about these nodes. When you connect something to the green node, it will be placed on top of the node you connected to. And when you connect something to the blue, it will be shown below that certain node. So for the tracker now, it doesn't really matter, but keep that in mind when you do it with other nodes in the future. And then a final thing right here, you can see we have a window on the left and on the right, and below the nodes we can see these 2 points, and this is to show on which window this node will be displayed. So we can make sure we only display it on the left, and then when we click on the text we can make sure that we display the text only on the right node. So right here, of course, our text is empty, so click on the text, and right here let's add the video nerd. Okay, let's disable this text and display this on the right. And now you see, well, you don't see the text right here. And when we make the text bigger on the right here, we increase the size. We see that it's below this right here, even though it's connected to the green arrow. So how come? Well, click on the tracker, then right here, click on the second tab, and then change the operation to match move, and then you will pull it to the front of the image. So right now click on the text, make it smaller, and now let's position it right here on this garage, or I don't know what this is. So make sure you have the text node selected, click on this layout button, and then you can change the X and the Y. So just click on it and drag it to the left, then click on this and drag it to the top. So now the video nerd is placed right here on this garage. And now when we play through, we see that the text follows the building exactly, so it's completely attached to it because the tracker is following this point and this text is connected to this point right here, so it follows it perfectly. So this was a really basic explanation of the tracker. There are a lot of things you can do with it. You can also track the head of someone and then attach a line to it where you write something on it. And that looks really nice when it follows a character. But like I said, advanced tracking is for another tutorial. This was the basic tracking just to add your name to the screen. Okay, now let's go back to the edit window. And we see that it looks pretty nice. And now when we zoom out, actually the final thing we need to do to our composition, to our montage, is adding color grading. And I will not go in depth on the color grading because it's DaVinci Resolve. It's the masterpiece of the color grading software. But we will do some really simple color grading just to make the images more vibrant, because it doesn't need more than that. So on the bottom, click on color right here, and then right here, just like in the Fusion tab, you see all the clips, so you can grade all the clips separately. So you just double click on a clip, for example this one, then right here you can scrub through the clip, for example to this point, and then you can add some color grading right here. And the most basic way to do this is by changing two things. First of all, we will be changing these wheels right here, and then after that you can click right here on this icon, the curve icon, and then with the dots right here you can go to the hue saturation curve, and then you can move this up or down to add or remove saturation. As you see, of course not too much because this is too much, but this was in the middle, so you can move it a bit up so it's a bit more saturated. Or if you want to create some mystery mood, you can remove the saturation and make it much more flat. So that's your choice. So this is the first thing you can do. And then the second thing is right here, the color wheels. Let's try to make the screen a bit bigger so it's a bit more clear. Okay, I guess this is it. So right here on the bottom, the three most important wheels are the first three. So the first wheel will adjust the brightness or the exposure and the color of your shadows. Then the middle wheel will change the exposure and the colors of your midtones, and then the gain, you guessed it, will change the exposure and the color of your highlights. So by changing this dot right here, you change the color of the shadows, the midtones and the highlights. When you double click on it, it resets. So when you screw up, you just double click and it resets like this. And then right here under the color wheel, we can move this to the left or to the right to remove or to add brightness or exposure to the lows, mids and highlights. Then the last wheel, this will just add exposure or color to the whole image. But this is not what we want, because what we want to do with this is we want to make the shadows darker and the highlights brighter, so you have more contrast in your image. So you see, when we move this slider of the shadows a bit to the left, the image gets a bit more dark, and then we add some gain right here, and then the midtones, we move this a bit down, and then you see that there is much more contrast in your image. Right here on the top right, you can see that this is where you apply all the effects to. So when you right click this and you click reset node grade, you see that this is how it was before. And when we press Ctrl Z, this is how it is now. So that's basic color grading. You can do that to every shot. For example, this shot too. You can just move this a bit down, move the mids a bit down, move the highs a bit higher, then add some saturation right here, and boom, it looks nicer than before. You can spend a lot of time right here perfecting everything, but the quick way is to do it like this. If you want to add the same color grading to every clip, you can make a template out of it, and this is really easy. So let's say that this quick color grade that I just did in 5 seconds is amazing, and you want to save this. Well, right here on the clip, you can right click, then you can click on generate 3D LUT cube. You click on that, and then you give it a name, for example, tutorial best LUT. Okay. And then you can save this. Right here you see we are in the folder structure of DaVinci Resolve. So we are in DaVinci Resolve support LUT, so lookup table, and then in the map GH5 LUTs. So we want to go to the normal LUTs right here. And then right here you see all the folders. And when we move this aside, you see the folders are the things right here. So these are the folders. And then all the other grades that are not in a folder, they are stored right here in the main level of the LUTs. So if you want everything organized, I advise you to make a folder. So let's make a new folder, call it tutorial. Okay. And then inside the tutorial, we will save our LUT. So we will remove this name right here and we will call it TVN tutorial LUT. It's a perfect name. Okay, then we click on save. And right here we see that there is a new folder tutorial, and in the tutorial we have a new LUT TVN tutorial. So when we go to a shot that isn't graded yet, and I already graded the other ones while not on the tutorial, so except for this one, okay, right here you see this has no color grading to make sure it doesn't right click reset node grade. Okay, it doesn't change. And then right here you can take this LUT and you can move it right here on top of it, and then the LUT is applied. Of course, this doesn't look really good. It was also a really quick grade. If you want to add a grade to every shot, then you should not make it intense. You should make a basic grade. For example, make these shots more blue or more green or whatever you want, and then maybe add a bit of contrast by lowering the lows and the mids and highering the highlights, but not too much, so you can apply it to everything, and then afterwards you can one by one make final adjustments, but in general everything will kind of look the same because you started from the same LUT that you created right here. So let's go back to the edit, and actually this was everything for the montage. Now if you want to save it, you need to select an in point and an out point, but let's save it first. Okay. Then right here, go to the deliver page, and right here we can select our in and our out point. So we move it to the beginning. There already is an in point, but just to show you, for example, when you move your playhead right here and you press I on your keyboard, you make an in point. So let's move it to the beginning, press I, okay, an in point. Then move it to right here where this shot ends and press O to create an out point. and now it will render from here to here. Then right here on top you can select the render settings, and since we have a weird resolution we cannot use the presets right here, so it automatically selects custom. You give it a name, so let's call it tutorial export. Okay, save it to the desktop. You can browse right here to select a different location, and then right here format QuickTime H.264. This is good. Resolution custom, of course. We have 3840 pixels wide, which is like 4K resolution, and we have only 1644 pixels high because it's 21:9. Okay, then the frame rate 60, you cannot change this, so make sure that when you make your project you select the right frame rate, because afterwards you cannot change it anymore. Okay, the quality, you can restrict it to, for example, 80,000 kilobits per second, or you can select automatic and then select least, low, medium, high, or best. I usually select automatic and best quality. You don't need to change the other things, and when everything is right here, you can click on add to render queue, and then it will pop up on the right, and here is your render queue. You can add multiple things to the render queue and then click start render, or you can do it immediately. So let's click start render, and now it will start rendering, and you can see how it's progressing live, because right here it is going through your footage while rendering. So then right here on the right you can check your progress. It will take 6 more minutes. So yeah, this was everything for the tutorial. I'm not sure how long it will be. I will know that when I start editing it, but I guess it will be pretty long. And if you're still here, thank you so much for supporting me. If you want to make a great thumbnail for your montage, that's the next tutorial I will make, and I will link it on top when it's finished. If you created a montage using this guide right here, please link it down below in the comments, because I would love to check it out, maybe give some tips or maybe get some new ideas from watching your montage. And if you really want to support me, then please share this tutorial with your Fortnite friends who would like to create a montage like this. And if you want to grow your online presence with gaming and you're not subscribed yet to this channel, what are you doing? This channel is just perfect for you. I have stream tutorials, YouTube tutorials, editing tutorials, there are social media tutorials that are coming, so everything that you need as a gamer to grow your online presence. So click the subscribe button, turn on the notification bell, and I will see you in my next video. Have a good day.